Hello all, welcome to the Summer Solstice magic video. I'm so glad to see you all here virtually and welcome to Witch Ways. It's the longest day of the year at Summer Solstice and I'm going to talk today about how to make protection bundles for this time of year, what kind of magic to do at this time of year and through the following month or so, and what kind of deities you might want to call on to help you in your work. Enjoy the video. All right, let's get started talking about protection bundles. Protection is important, especially if you're a witch, and a lot of witches are very empathic, and so it really helps to have some protection around your house, and plants are really happy to provide it. So I like to do two. I like to do one at winter solstice and one at summer solstice. And then when I'm done, I burn them. And for summer, there's a wide variety of plants to choose from. And I just tie them up in a bundle with string. And the other thing that you can do is if you don't have herbs to pick in a friend's yard or your own yard, then you can go to the store and get dried herbs, charge them, and put them in a sachet, a little charm bag, and just hang those up in your house. And that works really well as well. So let's talk about the kind of herbs that you might use in a protection bundle. So today for myself, I'm using herbs that I have in my yard. But again, as I mentioned before, you can get things from the store and put them in a sachet bag. And I am using rosemary, 3 sprigs of rosemary. And rosemary is fine alone if that's all you have. It's a general protector, clearer, and really good for clearing the mind and stimulating the mind as well. To that, I am adding 3 twigs of oak. I just clipped off a few from my yard. And then I'm adding 1 sprig that has 3 different branches on it of agrimony. And oak is expansive and supportive to the health and good for luck and is generally associated with this time of year. And agrimony is really good at repelling negative thoughts, curses, ill wishings, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to add 1, sorry, it's getting a little limp here, 1 sprig of blue vervain. And I often, when I'm doing magical potions and spells, add odd numbers because odd numbers like 5, 7, 9 are a little unbalanced in our minds and they create change. But 4, which is the number of herbs I'm using here today, is an even number. Even numbers are about stability, and 4 especially is about stability. It's about creating a strong foundation and holding the energy well. Other herbs that you can use, and there are many, many available and written about in books, is you can use hyssop, which has a history in Judeo-Christian as a protective plant to place in doorways. And also you can use St. John's wort, which is blooming around this time of year, although not this year because it's been very rainy here in Portland. And it is associated with fire, protection from fire, protection for health, radiance supporting of vigor and energy. And normally I would put that in. You can also add fennel. Fennel is really good for helping to move away thoughts that are not what you want to have. So that's something you might put in your bundle. All right, so now I have my bundle of herbs. And what I'm going to do is just take some crochet threads and I am going to just wrap it around a few times and tie it in a knot, nice and tight. I like to use really thin string when I'm doing the initial tying, even if I do a more decorative string or cord or ribbon on top of that, just because the foliage will dry up, and as it dries, it loses volume. And so you want to be able to just pull it. I just pull it nice and tight. And you want to be able to do that. That way, even as the foliage dries and shrinks, it won't slip out of that bundle. So, of course, if any of you are interested in knot magic, as you're tying these knots, you can work with that. So I've tied my knot and tied it tight. And now you could, if you wanted, you could just at this point take these and make a loop and tie them in a knot if you chose, and that would be fine. And you could just hang it as is on a thumbtack or put them in a doorway. Traditional places are doorways or windows. I also like to put them in the middle of my house. So you could just do that, of course, cutting off the ends so that it looks nice. But then sometimes what I like to do is to have a little more obvious ribbon wrapping those ends of those twigs. So I might just take my scissors and I would do this beforehand, even it up a little bit, just kind of even it. And then I would just take some ribbon and wrap it around, kind of up and down the stem so that you get a little bit more nicer look. And then you just tie it in a loop. Tie a knot tight first on the back like this so that it holds, and then you can tie it, make a loop like that. Once I've tied my bundle and I have it set, you might want to charge it, with a little bit more of your own intention if you have a specific thing that you're needing protection from, but really the plants just carry it. And so as long as you're being kind of focused when you make it, it will work fine. So once I have this tied, and here's my little loop, I then just take my old bundle down and untie it and burn it, or leave the ribbon or cord on if you want and just burn it to release the old stagnant energy before you put up your new ones. So what's the general magic that you can do over this time period of summer? I think it's most potent to do these types of rituals in the month or so surrounding summer solstice and during a waxing moon if possible. So overall, the energy of the season is good for expansion, commitment ceremonies, hand fasting unions, which is a whole topic of its own. They're good for this time of year is good for anything that you do that's really outward in nature that you're trying to pull into your life, or any commitment that you're doing. And one example of that that's a big ritual is, as I mentioned, the marriage, hand fasting, union ceremony of any kind. And summer solstice, due to its expansive nature, really helps that energy thrive and that ceremony or ritual thrive. The other kind that's a little more personal is to do some kind of land commitment or stewardship ritual, and that can look very simple. So it can look just like going outside, finding a spot you feel comfortable in, and starting to breathe deeply with intention. And connect your breath and breathe into the plants and trees in the area that you are working with, imagining and feeling your breath going to them as they take your carbon dioxide in, And as they release oxygen, imagine and feel it coming to you and breathing that into your body. And as you do that, start to form your idea of a commitment, and just state your intention, whatever it is at that time, whether it's a big permanent one or a temporary one for the moment, whatever that might be, just go ahead and state it. And then that is really all you need to do. You can, of course, make it more formal if you choose, and you can cast and call and then write up a whole formal declaration. Invite in any beings that happen to be local or any of your allies that you want there if you do that kind of work, and then just read your declaration after breathing deeply. So you can make it more formal if you choose. One of the questions that people ask me about is about the fact that for those of us who are white or European or some other ancestries that are not indigenous to this continent, how is it possible for us to connect with the land magically? And I, don't have the full answer to that. I just know that I'm really called to magical work with the land. And what I would say is to just really follow the lead of the indigenous people of this continent in terms of where and when you might be doing those kinds of magic. The other thought that I personally work with a bit as a settler colonial descendant is that this is something I learned in an anti-racism workshop, is to, when you have a special spot somewhere, to just go and be quiet in that place and center yourself and just float the question of, how would it be possible for me to be in right relationship with this land and its traditional stewards and peoples? And then it's always good to follow that up with a physical action, whether that's money or volunteering, and also just to educate yourself about the issues that indigenous people face here in working with the land that has been theirs since time immemorial. Another ritual that you can do at this time of year is, it's a really wonderful time to do work around personal choices and choosing your path, working with your life work, because it's such an expansive time, and that energy at the peak of the year is all about growth leading up, and then you come to that door, and then it's from there on out, it's refinement. So it's an excellent time energetically to work with life's path and choices around that. So one simple technique you can use is to sit with the plant lavender, which helps deity be more eminent in your life. And it also helps us come into connection with making life choices and allows the best possible one to come forward. So you can sit with that plant or burn that plant, and just ask and hold the intention of, what do I need to look at? How can I move forward into making good choices? Just floating those questions, or maybe you already know what kind of choice you need to make, and you just want to call on the spirit of lavender to help you move forward in the best way possible with it. You can also follow that up with some divination, or ask for dreams, or look for signs and portents if you choose. This type of work is, or can be, a little bit more advanced, just because it is helpful if you're asking for information to have some training and experience in how to discern that information, how to interpret that information, and how to act on it. If you are curious and would like to go a little bit more in depth into summer solstice magic, I did just create a pre-recorded 45-minute trance and ritual helping people work with choice, sovereignty, and getting to know some of the beings of this time of year. And I'm going to put that up as a link for those who are registered in probably another day or so. And I'll put a description and a registration link below in the comments sections. And it's pre-recorded, as I said, and it'll be up from the next day or two up until sometime in mid-July. If you work with beings, there are beings that are associated with this time of year, and mostly they are deities associated with the sun or fire or mother goddesses. And they're like earth deities, water deities, and star deities. There are many, 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 many different cultures that have names and relationships with those kinds of deities. I want to share the names of a few of those, but if you don't see your background there, I'm going to give a resource for looking up some names at the end here. And if you are of Japanese origin, your sun goddess name is Amaterasu, who's a really amazing deity. If your heritage is Greek, Apollo and the goddess Hestia are both strongly associated with the sun. If you are Italian or Roman or have those ancestors, Juno is the goddess associated with sun, but also she's associated with the moon. Sometimes she's called Juno Luna. In Celtic countries, the god Lu, if you work with male deities, was the many-skilled god associated with the sun. In Britain, there was a goddess, not very much was known about her, but her name was Sullus. She was probably closely related to the Germanic goddess Sol. Sullus, when the Romans invaded and colonized Britain, they took her on and named her Sullus Minerva. Minerva is a Roman god, and then dedicated the hot springs at Bath, which had been used by the English, although they weren't called English at that time. They made Sullus Minerva the patron deity of the hot springs at Bath. Also, I work a lot with a couple of fairy beings, deities, the Oak King, who is associated with this time of year, and the Queen of Summer. And I work with those two. Well, I work with the Queen of Summer in the video I mentioned. And also Germanic or Norse background, Sunnah or Sol is a goddess that is associated strongly with the sun. Not a lot is known about her, though. I'll put the names and spellings of these deities in the description below the video so you can look them up. Also, I ran across a link on Wikipedia that has an extensive list of, tons of countries and the solar deities associated with them. And I'll put that link in the description down below as well. And I always say to take things you find online with a grain of salt, especially because they're often recorded by people who were colonizers or were not from that culture. So ideally try and find someone from that culture who can, if you're from it, and support them and get information directly from them, or do your own work to establish a relationship and learn directly from that deity, which is a little harder and more advanced. If you're enjoying this, please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe button. It helps me. The more subscribers I get, the more I get bumped up in the YouTube algorithm, and the more people can see this, which is the whole point of me doing it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to have some more videos up next week and the week after on the magic of roses and summer. Enjoy and be well.